welcome to another episode of Design Under Influence. Today I'm joined by a fine crew, but before I introduce my co-hosts and fantastic expert that we have on the show today, let's dive into what we're trying to discuss and help you solve. I think this problem is consistent to just about any business, but specifically architecture business. So you are special in some way, organization is special. You want to be known for something. There's a special flavor of what you do. You want to do that consistently. The challenge we all are presented with as we have built our businesses to do and execute projects consistently with excellence so you get more projects is very, very difficult. And part of that is actually documenting and memorializing your institutional knowledge. And this is what we're going to unpack today. We're going to talk to Kiran Nayak, who is a BIM consultant. He is a digital practice leader, as well as a person with vast experience in design and architecture. And he was able to build, or he's in the progress and continuously building this kind of organizational knowledge base, a database on how to operate, how to be excellent consistently, how to be more efficient. So Kiran, welcome to the show, and maybe give us a little bit of an idea of what typically happens. Like, how do you start solving this massive challenge?
Thanks, Alex. It's great to be here. One of the biggest challenges that any firm faces is that while the firm itself has its own identity, people come and go. People join the office, they live there for a couple of years, they work and do excellent projects. But eventually these people leave, and what they leave behind is a lot of institutional knowledge, right? There's a lot of shared knowledge there that needs to trickle down to people who join the firm. And there's a process of educating new staff as they come in. So one of the big challenges that we face is, how do you curate institutional knowledge within a practice so that it's easy for people to understand, easy for new people who join the firm to learn, and also easy to modify as it grows. Typically, what firms do is they publish it in a sort of PDF form. And this ends up being quite counterproductive because people copy it onto their machines and then it doesn't end up being updated. The most successful option that we've tried out is to host a repository of information on our central intranet platform and use that as almost as an encyclopedia of information within the firm.
Yeah. So in a lot of ways, the difference between companies like Toyota, Walmart, Amazon, all these names, all these companies that survived and thrived over years and years and years, is their ability to have both the culture, but also the central repository of how-to and processes and systems and improvements connected to that culture where everybody cares. But they also, like, there's one thing is caring, and the other thing is like actually having tools to execute your care levels towards the customer, the project, your colleague, right? And so that's what we're talking about here. This central repository, how do you memorize all of this processes, systems, training, standards, toolboxes? And so that's what I saw you do right before the show. You showed me this all very nicely put as what you call digital design manual. But before we go into the little details there, what does typically happen in architecture firms? What do you see kind of typical challenges?
One of the biggest challenges is when information is only shared by word of mouth, right? That's probably the lowest rung of information sharing that you can have in an architecture practice. And it makes it the most challenging because then you can have mentorship training sessions that broadcast to an office, but how much of that is actually remembered? How much of that information actually gets to the end user? Because that in the end is the measure of success, right? You want the person who's producing the work to understand to receive that institutional knowledge. When you have a firm that's dependent on word of mouth for transfer of information, then you'd quickly notice that you get the same questions asked over and over again, right? And they're often from the same people because they don't know where to go to find that information the next time they need it. So it's vital that firms figure out a way to curate that information somewhere.
And we've seen, sorry to interrupt, but we've seen people try to do that. And we've one of our shows was basically trying to find documents and files, how to access document and files. One of our more popular shows. And it's essentially, I guess, next rung is document it, but don't have a central organized repository where it's everywhere. So you took initiative and you started building this digital design manual. Maybe you can talk a little bit about like what are the components and how do you get started with something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Every firm needs to have its own standards. So when you work on projects, you, like you said, there are things that set you apart. There are things that make you excellent, right? So there's one, the tools you use. There's the people who use the tools. And then there's the workflow that those people use to actually utilize the tools that they have. So how do you gather the information about those three things and curate them in one central place? So the solution we came up with was to not distribute a PDF or send emails, but to host that on our central intranet platform, right? So the great advantage of that is that it functions as a living document. You can update parts of it. You can make it interactive, and it doesn't just sit dormant in someone's hard drive.
It looks like almost like a website, like a real website, but for internal use, right?
It's a website for internal use. Exactly. So, and the way that's organized is you have standards down to your graphic standards, how you like to from graphic standards to BIM standards as well, but also how do teams communicate? How do teams communicate within a collaborative work sharing BIM environment? And the third section would be, how do you ask questions? What are the resources you have within the firm? The videos that you've recorded of training sessions, those kinds of things all get hosted in that central place, and it makes it really easy for people to find information.
Now, I'm building one of my businesses, and it has nothing right now, and we're a sizable business, 15 employees. Who does this? Like, so you look at the organization, smaller to mid-size architecture firms. That's kind of more my business size. One of my business size falls into, like, who usually takes on this to start? Is it the founder / leader, CEO, chief designer? Who does it?
I think mid-size firms, 50 people to 100 people, often have the advantage of being able to hire a dedicated digital design manager or BIM manager, and in that kind of an environment, the BIM manager would be the person who would oversee the curation of that information and collect it, gather it, help generate content through more training, and then bring that all into the digital design manual. Smaller firms may not have that luxury. If you have 10 to 15 people, then chances are you don't have the bandwidth or the financial resources to dedicate that much, to allot that much money for an internal BIM manager. So what you might do is hire a consultant who can do that for you. It is fairly easy, and there are many, many good people out there.
And you can help, right?
Yeah, that is something that I do. And I'm happy to help. But I think it's good for small firms to know that there is a huge ecosystem of really good BIM consultants out there who are eager to help small firms transition into BIM.
Makes sense. My other thought was, when you get to 15, 20 people, I mean, you got to have an ops person there somewhere. And that ops person, if the company owner has the vision and can dedicate some time on sort of masterminding, building a sort of framework for this, your ops person should be tasked with organizing and executing, because that it comes down to this. Like, you don't need to overthink it up front. I mean, I think just basically, and I think you're going to provide us a diagram, right? You can give us some idea on how to begin to think about and structure it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think I'll share an image with you that will clearly describe how a small firm and a medium-sized firm could operate hierarchically and organize itself for better BIM implementation.
Yeah, so that would be a fantastic resource. And so from there, I think it's just starting putting those the processes and systems and thinking about systemizing your operations and systemizing what you're known for, your unique ability, I like to call it. And
right.
and once that is an initiative, people can get behind it. And your ops person should be able to, I mean, that doesn't take, you don't need special training for it. You should be able to start putting this together, whether it's in Google Docs initially, whether it's in Teams, whether it's in, whatever. What do you guys use, by the way, specifically? What software do you use to run
for
your
communication? We use Zoom. Zoom has been our tool for communication within the office.
What about software for the digital design manual, the actual manual?
Yeah, we use something pretty out of the box. We use SharePoint. SharePoint has some basic resources that will enable any firm to put together a straightforward digital design manual just using their templates. And that has been very useful for us, even though it has its limitations.
Yeah, I mean, everything would, but you don't recreate the wheel. You just get things done. And as long as it's a robust search and it's organized in a decent way, you can find things. Now, there's one other tip. Let's leave people with one like pro tip. You told me about this. Like, you found this the most effective way to get people the information they need quickly and save time, get people more productive. What is it? Yeah,
interestingly enough, and I don't think this will come as a surprise to anybody, but nobody wants to read pages and pages of text. We live in the age of TikTok, right? And I think what we've noticed is that people respond very well to a 30-second video or a 2-minute video that describes, very briefly a particular workflow or, a standard. That has by far been the most successful way to record information and share it online. When we look back at the metrics, the views of videos on the internet far outweigh the views of standalone pages.
Yeah. So there you have it. That's your master tip or pro tip. Create those short videos, and they're not difficult to do, right? You can just screen capture, boom, get it done.
Yeah, the beauty of it is you don't need any preparation. You basically record your troubleshooting sessions and you record quick training. The idea should be you don't prepare.
Yeah, and I think from a perspective of marketing, which means getting to that information, the end user needs to get to that information. I think what people need to think about is titling it properly. Like, you need to create a title and description of the video that corresponds to what's in the video. That's key. And I would spend as much time thinking about that as anything else. And once you name it properly and with words that people actually use in the search on your intranet, boom, it becomes like vital resource. So I think something to think about is take the time to name it properly. But in any event, I think that was great. We'll dig in deeper into your digital design manual, operational Bible, whatever you want to call it, and hopefully get a little bit more how-to specific advice for our viewers. In the meantime, Kiran, thank you kindly for your time. And everyone who's watching, thank you for your time. And we hope that you can go ahead and build your organization to last for years and become one of the best companies for whatever it is that your unique ability, whatever it is you want to be known for. Thank you for watching.
Thanks, Alex. Thanks, Boris. Bye.
Thanks, Kiran. Bye.